Hello, hello, and welcome to Winner's Circle. This is my series where I talk to scholarship winners from our community. Some of these people have been part of the community for a couple of years, only some of them only a couple of months. Some of them have been a part of our boot camps. Some of them have been a part of our scholarship essay academy. Lots of different people from different walks of life have walked through or been a part of the community in some way. And this is a great opportunity to interview them through their scholarship process so you can learn a little bit more about how the process went for them, how they won, and try to learn from it, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, is to learn from each other and ultimately win scholarships. So I am super excited to talk to one of my favorite students I've ever worked with, Katrina. Katrina is a powerhouse. She is very committed. She's very dedicated, something I very much appreciate about her. Her mission is amazing, and I won't talk too much about it because I want her to be able to speak for herself on her goals, and her relationship with us and how she's blossomed since. So I am excited to introduce you, but I would love for you to introduce yourself. So, Katrina, without further ado, tell us a little bit about yourself, academic background, where you went to school, things like that, and we'll get this kicked off.
Thank you. That was such a great introduction. I appreciate you, Sade. And I've been working with Sade, and I was a part of the first boot camp,
Yep.
the first boot camp last summer. So it's coming up on a year. And I just want to first just say thank you for the opportunity and all of your help over the last year. But I am a first year Master's of Social Work student here at the University of Pennsylvania. And my journey is that I'm a non-traditional student. So I went to undergrad at Clark Atlanta University. Shout out to the Panthers. And after that, I taught. I was in education for 12 years. So I was a middle school teacher. I did some work in a nonprofit. And then I worked for a charter network, and then really decided that the well-being of teachers and students and families was really important to me and wanted to return to school. And I ended up here at the University of Pennsylvania for a lot of reasons. The program aligned to a lot of the interests and desires for what I wanted in a program. And then they also gave me a nice amount of scholarship money. So that also was a plus to get here. And I'm just really committed to figuring out how do we prioritize teacher well-being as a means to supporting mental health for students. And so a lot of my interest is around in the school setting, but also working with families and centering a lot of my work around grief and loss. So, yeah.
See, that's amazing. Like everything about that is amazing. And so, this is what I think of when I think of mission-driven people. And I think that it's super important to have that, because kind of when you're going through the scholarship process, it's like, why am I doing this again? It's like you can always revisit, your why and your mission. So, so beautiful. Thank you for that. That was great. And I would love to now dive in a little bit more on your scholarship journey, right? So, scholarships are like generally hard to find, especially when you're a graduate student, a non-traditional student. So, tell us a little bit more about, the scholarship you won, and a little bit more about how much it was, like what it was about, and then feel free to add any other scholarships that you've won since, because again, it's been a year since this whole thing started. So, walk us through it.
So I will say that one of the most challenging things about this scholarship was that I found it literally, it was like a needle in a haystack. And so before I met Sade, I had already started with the tracker of like the scholarships, the deadlines, the requirements. And I found this one by doing a random search on Google. And so I remember just thinking to myself, because I won a scholarship. I guess I should back up and say that I won a scholarship in high school. So we're talking well in like the early 2000s. And I found it by going through the file cabinet. That's how that, I mean, you could search stuff then, but I don't think I was really searching for scholarships on the internet. So I was going to the file cabinet and just literally every day I would start at like A, go to maybe D until the bell rang or until I needed to leave. And one day I found one. I was like, oh, it's a very high chance that I would get this one. And it literally was me and a classmate of all the people in that city, me and somebody in my class won that scholarship. And so I remember thinking to myself, then that was a very niche scholarship. So how can I search something that would be for me? So I searched this one, and it was a dermatology like business or organization that was supporting graduates and undergraduates. And it was on my list for a while. But when I got in this boot camp, it was the one that I said, I am going to work with Sade in this boot camp to make sure that this application and essay is as strong as it can be, so then I can secure the money. So the scholarship name was Aspire Higher. And if you're watching this now, you should look it up because I think it's due sometime in the next 30 days, hopefully, by the time you see this. And it was $10,000. And so the chances were high because they give out three to undergrad, three to grad, and it was $10,000 to each person. And I wrote an essay, which I worked with Sade on, and it was very story based. And literally, I got a phone call probably maybe 30 or 40 days after it was submitted, telling me that I won. And that was really the process. That's how we got here. And of course, I did a thank you note afterwards, some communication for publication on their end. And that was really the end of that process from start to end. So
No, that was a great breakdown. I think there was like 200 applications or something like that. I don't know if that was undergrad and grad combined or just grad, but was it
yeah,
both?
I can't remember if it was for both. But I never really went back and asked, but I know it was 200 and something total applicants.
Okay, total applications. So you don't even know like the breakdown of like out of those 200 students, like how many of them were actually grad students. You know what I mean? So I think that just tells you a lot about like like you said, doing that niche search, doing things outside the scholarship databases, which is a lot of what we do in the boot camp too. When we're looking for school scholarships with you guys, we're trying our best to stay out of the scholarship databases. Obviously, sometimes we do, but that is how you find scholarships with a higher chance. Like 200 applicants on a scholarship for $10,000 is extremely low. Anything more than $10,000 for a national level scholarship is always thousands of applications. So that just shows you the power in like really getting into the nitty gritty. So that was awesome. That's an awesome story, and it's great. So in extent for the summer boot camp, so we did that last summer. We did it for 30 days. This year we're doing way more expansive. It's the whole summer, and it's different levels of support for different people, so it's going to be a little bit different. But how do you feel like the boot camps helped you like in your journey like to winning scholarships, not just the one you won while you were with us, but just moving forward? Like how did it change your mentality towards it, and how do you feel like it's obviously going to help you moving forward as you continue in your second year of your master's degree?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things was accountability because you're meeting every week. And so I knew that the summertime can be less of a schedule for me. And so it made me really say, okay, we're meeting at this time. So if we meet this day and this time, that means you need to have these things done. It made me be prepared with questions. When I think about the actual essay, I knew that there was no interview for that scholarship. So the essay was one of the biggest pieces of how you choose who will be a recipient. So I just made sure that when I had individual time with Sade, that I made use of the time, that I came prepared with my actual essay, that I had questions already queued up. And so I would say that that was one thing that I still carry after that, which is creating a timeline. Also, I hear Sade's voice when I'm like editing my essays even now to say, okay, Katrina, this is too wordy. There should be no more than 10, maybe 10 words in a sentence because it needs to flow concisely. It needs to be able to be easy to read because you don't want to lose the committee who's judging for, the winner. So that's something that consistently comes up for me. And I think one thing that we did in the boot camp was really talk about like the formula for searching for scholarships, and that can become a rabbit hole. So y'all, if you have felt frustrated by like either not finding things that are more niche, you have to really keep building that muscle. And I set a timer. So if I'm like, say I'm watching TV, I set a timer for like 30, 40 minutes to search. And after that, I stop. I put it on my tracker. I make a note. I have things color coded. Like if it's green, it's a very high possibility that I can win it. If it is orange, it's a lower possibility. So if you can get to it in time, then do it. And so some of that strategy is what I still keep. And then I think the other thing I would say is at one point of the boot camp, a couple of participants, I just remember we were talking about how you can feel really discouraged throughout this process. And that whole time I have been applying for scholarships since somewhere around March or April. So about 2 or 3 months before I joined the boot camp and hadn't won anything. And so even after I won the $10,000 one, I didn't win anything again until February of, so that was, I found it out in the summer. I didn't win again until a whole like what 6, 7 months afterwards. And so for me, there was really a lot of like trying to motivate myself, motivating other people in the boot camp. I think Sade did a really good job of encouraging us. And, sometimes it is us. Like when we are thinking about, I learned that I was turning stuff in at the last minute. And maybe if I gave myself more time and if I turned it on the last day, fine. But I really wanted to ask myself, well, maybe if we turn it in like 5 days earlier, could that increase your chances? Because I don't know how they review through scholarships. They could be exhausted by the time they get to the end. So I was trying to just try different things later on to also increase my odds of winning. But the boot camp helped me in a lot of ways, but definitely accountability, strategy, and structure, and thinking very strategically about my actual essay.
And I appreciate all that. That was super helpful and super honestly in depth, and I appreciate the critiques and the feedback. It's very helpful for me to know what you guys feel is the most helpful for you, because that helps me help more students, right? So something you mentioned that I did want to bring back up is, you know, the application process, like how soon should you be turning in scholarships, things like that.
That's a good
More
question.
and more. So more and more lately I've been noticing this. More and more scholarships have been closing early, more and more. And people are like, Sade, I was looking at the scholarship on your page and it says it's due this date and it's closed now. And I was like, yes, scholarship committees have every right to close the scholarship before it's due, especially if they're getting a lot of applications. That's usually why they close it. If they feel like, oh man, we don't even know how we're going to get through 2,000 applications, let's close it. That happens all the time. And some scholarships even have a cap in, like some scholarships, especially on Scholarship America, I see it the most, that website. A lot of them have a cap on the number of students that can apply. I've seen multiple scholarships that have,
That's
we're
good.
closing at 100 applicants or May 21st. So if there's 100 applicants before May 21st, it's gone, it's closed. So more and more I'm seeing that, and more it makes you feel like you need to be on doing the scholarship as soon as you can, not rushing through it, of course, but giving yourself that buffer of 2 weeks so that, you know, if something like that happens, you're not like feeling like, oh, discouraged. Maybe you already started working on it, things like that. And another part about you saying the discouraging part, like it's hard. Like I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it. And I don't think I've ever have to the
Yeah.
people I work with. I never have said it's easy. No one ever said it was easy. But the people who win, they're more consistent for a longer period of time than everyone else. And like you said, you didn't win anything for 7 months. and you were still going. So that just shows you the level of urgency that's kind of needed to continue. And another great thing you mentioned was, time blocking yourself. No one should be spending 6, 7 hours a day looking for scholarships, applying. No, 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 no. You got to break it up. And the 40 minutes is literally a perfect amount of time, especially because you can do that more consistently. You can do that every 2 weeks or so to make sure you're not missing anything that may open and close in a short amount of time. You can do that sustainably. And I think a lot of students, they sit there and they say, I'm going to take the month of June and I'm just going to go ham and hope it works out. And a lot of times it doesn't, because the particular scholarship that, may be perfect for you may not be open in June. It may be open in September when you weren't looking, or October when you weren't looking. And that's why I think it's way more consistent. And I see a lot more success with students who don't bum rush and try to apply to 50 applications in 1 month, but instead from those 50 applications say, I think these three I have a great chance of winning. So I'm going to spend my time and energy on those three, and then continue to find that type of three for the foreseeable future, every month, every 2 months, things like that. So I think you made a lot of great points, and I think a lot of people can learn from you, because that is extremely important. Having that structure for yourself, having all of the thought processes and the motivations behind everything like settled, because if you don't know what you're doing, why you're doing it, it's going to
Yeah.
be really hard to wonder why I'm doing all this work.
I knew that I
So
was
I think
supposed to be debt free. Like that was really important for me as much as
absolutely.
possible to earn outside scholarship money. One, because I think what really motivated me was one day finding a TikTok video of someone talking about the amount of money that they won and how they use how that set them up for life after undergrad. And so I knew that I was going to grad school, but in my mind, I was saying that, well, there's money out there. And now it's just about understanding that process around, like, even I think me winning money and telling family members, telling classmates, other people at my university, I think it really amazes people because one person said, I always knew about scholarships, but I just thought it was a hoax. He was like, I really thought that getting money outside of the university was this thing that you hear about. He said, but I've never actually heard of people winning outside scholarships. He was like, you're the first person. And this person's in grad school. And so I just think about that and how even me sharing my wins, I want it to be this picture that is possible and that is definitely possible for graduate students and non-traditional students as well.
Absolutely. And that was one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to get you here on the winner circle, is because representation is so important. And another student from the boot camp who was also a non-traditional student did very well as well. And I think that a lot of people, they beat themselves. So like before they even have a chance to fail, they already believe that they're going to. So they don't even start. And I think like you guys are a perfect example of starting and not giving yourself you know you don't count yourself out before it's actually time, or and I think that a lot of people do that, and it's terrible to see, especially Black women. Obviously, we're getting education at some of the fastest rates in the country of all minorities, so this is going to be a big help to those people who can look back and say, well, Katrina did it, maybe so can I, and outside of just me, right? So I think that it's amazing, and I really appreciate obviously everything you've said today. You've given some great advice throughout, but I'll still ask you, is there any advice you would have for other students who like maybe right now are on the verge of giving up on scholarships? Is there any advice you would give to those people?
Yeah, I would really say to be clear on why you decided to search for scholarships. You've already decided, and maybe that's attached to why you're going to school. And to know that it is a lot. It is a lot to go to school, to work, to maybe have a responsibility in your family. And applying for scholarships it becomes an extracurricular activity, like something that you are having to put time aside for, and effort and energy and consistency. And so if you can think about it as another bucket of your life, then you'll consistently show up and deposit into that bucket, because it is a lot of work. And I I've applied to probably over 30 scholarships and I've won um, four. That sounds right. Four as of now. And I wouldn't do anything differently about my journey because I know that all the things that, now I would teach people differently, like things to do, but I know that I needed to go through that experience with scholarships, finding them, applying, becoming more honed in on the ones designed for me to win. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't go through what I did go through and meeting Sade and other people to then support me on this journey. So definitely keep your why at the forefront of this journey. And every time I'm thinking like, oh, I'll just wait, I'll do that another scholarship next month. I'm like, no, if you have the capacity, commit 90 minutes to go ahead and finish this because it could be the one that you need.
I love that. I love that. That's testimony right there. That's testimony. I love it so much. That is so inspiring, so impactful. I think so many people can learn from just that mindset alone. It's incredible, and I really appreciate everything you've said so far. I think it's just a reflection of everything that I see in students. A lot of times I see things in students that they don't see in themselves sometimes. And I think that, I tried my best to give confidence to each student. And I like to mention, you said 30 scholarships you applied to or something like that. And I'm assuming that's over the last year or so. Those 30 scholarships, like, that's a reasonable amount of scholarships that to be applying for in that time frame. I'm hearing students say and families say that they've applied to hundreds of scholarships. If you are applying to hundreds of scholarships, in all likelihood, you are applying to scholarships you have no chance of winning. You
Yeah.
shouldn't find that many to apply to. You shouldn't be applying to things
Um,
just because you're
that's a
eligible,
lot.
right? That's the strategy. That's the strategy aspect. That's the thing that saves you time. So let's just say someone applies to hundreds of scholarships and they win four, you applied to 30 and you won four. So you're putting in less effort and you're getting more results or the same results as someone who's doing extra work because they're not putting in that strategy aspect. And that's so important. So 30, I know that's a lot, but considering it's over the course of a year, it's way, way, way more reasonable than a lot of the things I hear other students saying that they're doing. If they're actually doing it, I don't know, but that's what they tell me. Hundreds and I haven't gotten each other. What the hell, right? It's probably because you're not using a strategy to choose your scholarships. You're just doing anything. And that is not how we do things, not in the boot camp, not in any other services that I provide, because it is a waste of time and it makes you give up. It does. It does. It makes you give up so fast because you're putting in all the effort and seeing no rewards. But if you just had put that effort into 5 applications, the same amount of effort into those 5 applications over a month, that is the group of scholarships you probably would have seen results from. So thank you for all of that. I know we've been talking for a while now. Do you have anything I didn't ask you yet that you may want to mention? I don't have anything other questions for you. This is like the end of the interview, but if you have any last words, I'd love to hear them. Anything.
Yeah, I will definitely say encourage people to sign up for the boot camp, but I also will say sign up for the boot camp and sign your mind up to really be engaged with the resources and the time that you will do within the boot camp and then time that you need to spend outside of the boot camp. So I will say to definitely sign up for the boot camp, but also hold yourself accountable to doing the work because just showing up is only a part of the journey. But if you're not doing the work to be engaged in the boot camp, you really are paying your money to gain some knowledge, then to never apply it is then not really what the boot camp is. The aim is a boot camp. You go to boot camp to do the work, so then you can see results after the boot camp. You see the results that you put in during that time, and so that would just be one of my really big pieces of like foresight and encouragement to you is sign up, but also do the work.
Love that. Sign up, but do the work. I love that. That should be the time. That should be the tagline for the boot camp. I love it. I love it. Oh man. Oh my God. Okay. Katrina, thank you so much. This was so good. This was great. I can't wait to see all the great, beautiful things that you do in life, because you will after you're done with your master's. You'll be one of the few Black women out there with an Ivy League degree. So that is going to be an amazing opportunity for you. You're going to be an extremely great force at whatever you decide to do with your degree. And I am excited to just see it and hopefully maybe be a part of it. You know, you never know. So thank you so much for joining us on the Winner's Circle. And I can't wait to interview who's next.
Yes, you're welcome.